Michael Jackson, Boston, Chicago, Sly and the Family Stone, Kansas, the Beach Boys, Meatloaf, Jeff Beck. These are just some of the artists that our next guest has worked with. He is one of the most extraordinary record executives to ever be in the business. He's on the morning show with us this morning. I want to welcome into the studio Ron Alexenburg. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here.
We've been talking off the air for a couple of minutes, and I'm blown away already by some of the things that you're saying. Your career has been just remarkable. I mean, I'm in awe.
No, don't be.
No, I'm in awe. When Jim Faith said, here we're, maybe, we floated the idea. He floated the idea to me. I was blown away. I was like, this would be incredible if we could get.
Thank you.
Ron to
I've had a wonderful life, and fortunately, as I say in my hopeful to be finished book, I get up every morning and look forward to going to work.
Yeah. Now, how many years? How many years have you been in the record industry for?
You really want to know?
Roundabout, roughly.
This is my 55th year.
55 years. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're known for a lot of things. Most notably would be Epic and what you did with Epic, right? Yeah. Where did you get your start in the record industry?
I started by being told that I was not going to be accepted at a law school because I was too opinionated. And I had a wonderful set of parents, and I was at 16 years of age a professional bowler, which I'm probably blowing my relationship now trying to hustle bowling out here in the Hamptons. But I ended up getting in a car that I won, a 1957 Corvette that I'd love to have right now. And the prize was $4,000, and the car was $4,250. I had to borrow $250 from my father, God rest his soul. And I said, gee, I better get a job. And I'm driving down Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and a buddy of mine's dad owned an independent record distributor, which they were distributing a lot of labels at the time. Mm-hmm. And I said, gee, let me go in there. And there were two people, a blonde lady and a blonde man standing in the lobby. And I went up to them. Actually, I was going to be interviewed. I didn't know that I was going to be interviewed. I stopped in to say hello. And I said, hi, my name is Ron Alexenburg. And she said, I'm Dusty Springfield, and I'm Brian Hyland. And I'm going, oh, yeah, I know who you are. Yeah. And, oh, do you work here? And being a promotion man, not knowing I was a promotion man at the time, oh, yes, I work here. And she said, I'd like to play you my new record. Oh, sure. I didn't even know where there was a record player.
Wow. And
she plays for me, Wishing and Hoping. Well, I took care of that. She said, what do you think of it? I said, oh, it's a big hit. And that's how it all started. And I just said, wow, this is artists. And they gave me a job in the warehouse, which is part of half the title of my book, From the Warehouse to the Penthouse.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, because that's where I started. And, I was picking orders off the shelf. And
wait, so you didn't say, all right, Dusty, stay here. I'm going to bring you in.
No. She was mine. After that was it. Apart from her being very good looking, and Brian Hyland's looking at me, and I didn't know that. I knew who he was, but, she was really the center of attention.
Yeah.
And the owner of the distributor, Garmisa Distributing, he came downstairs and he said, Ron, what are you doing here? I said, I'm looking for a job. She says, oh, you don't work here? That's how it started, and he put me in the warehouse, $75 a week. And they were distributing United Artist Records. They were distributing World Artist Records, Chad and Jeremy, and we go way back. And right. I love rhythm and blues, love jazz. Being born and raised in Chicago, I used to hang out at Old Town and go to all the blues clubs. And, you see Buddy Guy and Gene Ammons, Jack McDuff, and you see these people and you're a kid and you love the music. And I lasted in that particular job, warehouse,
right,
for about 3 weeks until I saw the promotion men, as they called them then, coming in with shirts and ties. And I said to one of them, a gentleman by the name of Jim Scully, whose brother happened to be Ron Riley, who happened to be the #1 jock in Chicago at WLS. I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm a promotion man. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I take releases and I go around to radio stations and I promote the records. He says, I take him out to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and who pays for that? And he goes, your boss, the guy upstairs. I said, wait a minute. He puts gas in your car. You go to radio stations. You're taking artists with you, and you promote records. So what are you? You're a promotion man. That was my goal.
It sounded like the most fun. It's the most fun job in the world, really.
Well, what was even more fun is I was still doing the counter job where I was ordering these records from the manufacturer. And in those days, you could buy 10,000 singles on a new release and get 3,000 free. That was the
deal?
Yeah, that was the deal. And there was 13 boxes behind me. And the owner, Lenny, came downstairs and he says, what are those? I said, I don't know, Lenny. It's an unopened box. He said, well, open it up. See what it is. So I opened it up. I took one of them out, and I started listening to it. So it was Love Me Do on Tolly Records, and what I would love to have those right now, okay?
Seriously?
Yeah, and he said, that group will never make it. That's what he said. And it, the Beatles, I said, well, you bought these. Where'd you buy them? He says, I was at a convention, and the guy was selling masters and stuff, and I bought 13,000 of them. Love Me Do with the Beatles. Well, I stayed at that counter job until one very special day in my life. He called me from Florida, and he said, I'm having a courier bring you a dub. And dub was the metal part. You could only play it 5 times, and then you wore it out. He said, I want you to take it right to WLS and tell them it's for me. I said, okay. It comes in, and I listened to it, and it sounded terrific. And I got in my car with my dirty T-shirt, because I'm still working in a warehouse.
Right.
Go into the radio station, and I see all these guys like you sitting around a table at WLS playing Liar's Poker, where you play with dollar bills, all the radio guys and some record guys, promotion guys. And I said, Gene Taylor, please. And he said, that's me, the program director. I said, this is a disc that Lenny Garmis asked me to bring you. He looks at me and he says, you're interrupting my lunch. Okay. He said, is it a hit? And I said, I think so. He said, are you a gambler? Yeah. He said, if I take this upstairs to the second most powerful radio station in the United States, 50,000 watt clear channel AM station, owned by ABC, O&Os, do you agree if the phones don't light up, never to come back here again? And what did I have to lose? He said, yeah, sure. Okay. He says, well, I'm going upstairs, and, I'm going to play it in about 10 minutes. I get in my car. I turn on the radio, and I heard the song which has kept me in this business today, California Dreamin', the Mamas and Papas.
That was the song?
That was the first record I ever promoted.
Holy cow.
And yeah, exactly. And, I got all excited, and I get on the phone, and I called the manufacturer, which was Dunhill Records, and met Lou Adler for the first time, who's, just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I called him on the phone, and I said, Mr. Adler, yeah. I said, I believe that California Dreamin' just went on WLS in Chicago. That's nice. What?
Not impressive.
Because he was already in the studio, whether it was Jan and Dean or all the hits that he had expected that.
Right.
And every time I hear that record on the radio to this day, it just takes me right back to Chicago.
That's great.
Yeah, and that started it. And, to this day, if I sit here with you and we talk about an artist or two, and if I'm fortunate enough to play something for you and you put it on the air and I hear it, it's like in the veins.
You still got excited.
Yeah,
that's great. I love how that was like the greatest day of your life up until that point, and Lou was like, "Whatever, I'm on to the
No,
next
he
thing."
didn't. He wasn't being rude, but
right.
I had another incident with him when our oldest daughter, who was at the University of Arizona, and I didn't know she was going there because she was a young girl at the time, but that's where she wanted to be, out west. And a young man came into my office at CBS because Columbia and Epic were in the same building, Black Rock.
Right.
And I heard this song, and Lou Adler produced it on Ode Records, which is the label that he had, with Carole King before Carole. And I called my daughter, and I said, if you're going to San Francisco, would you wear some flowers in your hair? That was it, Scott McKenzie. So, and I had to get to San Francisco. I mean, and when I got out there, I just fell in love with the radio. Tom Donahue sat with me like you're doing right now, and he was probably really the grandfather or the father of progressive radio.
Yeah.
I went over to a R&B station because I love rhythm and blues, and I met some guy that wrote a song called "The Swim" for Bobby Freeman. And I said, have you done anything else? And he said, yeah, I've got some stuff that I'm working on. And a year later, Clive Davis called me into his office, and he said, I'd like you to listen to something and see if you want it for Epic. And it was Sly and the Family Stone, because Sly was a DJ just like yourself, if I can call you that, air personality. Okay? And that was how he started. So come on.
Wow.
It's one of the few geniuses that I really worked with. And San Francisco, wear some flowers in your hair, Sly and Family Stone.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah. Ron Alexenburg is on with us here on the morning show with Anthony, and you're going to come and do the band battle. You're going to judge the band battle.
Yes, thank you.
Which is exciting.
That's fun. The only time I was ever judging anything is I was in Ashtabula at a beauty contest, and I said, is the program director is the program director's daughter in the beauty contest? And yeah, I said, she won. He said, but she hasn't been on yet. I said, don't worry about it, because I had a record by Peaches and Herb that I wanted to get played in Ashtabula. Okay.
That's phenomenal. Well, this is not beauty. This is music. This is a good area of expertise for you. But God, I want to get back to you. I have so much to ask you. Let me see. Where do I want to go next? Because I want to ask you about Clive and Epic. You mentioned the Black Rock building. That's a very, very special building here in New York. What was it like to walk in and out of that building every day?
Every day, it was not a challenge. Every day it was fun. See, people give me, and I'm thankful for it, give me a lot of credit. If it wasn't obviously for the artists, there wouldn't be the business. I had the best staff. We were a bunch of young people.
Yeah.
We were signing bands that people didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I mean, 2 Indians.
Which is crazy when you start to name the bands to think that people didn't want them.
But you know all of them.
Yeah.
2 Indians walk into my office. 2 American Indians. Pat and Lolly Vegas, known as Redbone.
Mm.
They do a song called Witch Queen of New Orleans. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, or a guy is standing at like your door right here with a baseball hat tipped off to the side. And I said, can I help you? I want you to want me. I said, I do. Cheap trick. There we were. And when Mr. Loaf came in with Carla DeVito, and Todd Rundgren produced an album that Warner Brothers had turned down. We were signing bands that people had turned down. Boston, I mean, how do you not listen to Carry On Wayward Son with Kansas?
Yeah.
Or Boston, More Than a Feeling. And
these are some of the most played songs on the radio over the last X amount of years.
And when Tom Scholz called me after 5 weeks, the album had gone gold, which we had not had on a brand new band. In fact, I think it's still the biggest debut on a first time out. And he said, "You ruined my career." I said, "What?" He said, "In 5 weeks, your album just went gold." He said, "Well, you didn't put a picture of the band on the cover. If you remember the cover, it had that great spaceship."
Yeah.
So I called the art department because I wasn't, approving album covers.
Right.
And I said, "How come you didn't put the?" Here we go. I got to get in trouble. He said, "How come you didn't put a picture of the band on the cover?" He said, "Have you seen the picture?" That took care of that. So, it's still like the biggest debut album, and Scholz is a genius. And when I went and I presented him with 6 gold albums, and the first time it's gone further than that. We drove up in the Lenny Pizzi, who was the head of Epic at the time, and he's discovered Cyndi Lauper and people that were on Epic. But he's from Boston, and he had Aerosmith on Columbia, so I had to do a little battle because it's the same company. But Black Rock is, first of all, as a design for a building. I walked by it yesterday. It's still, Frank Lloyd Wright is just like, you look at that building, and it's slate. I mean, it sticks out with all these new buildings that are there.
Yeah.
And inside it was CBS Radio,
Yeah.
AM, FM, and it was always exciting for us because a bunch of young people had the best staff in the business.
Yeah.
And my wife tells a better story when people used to say to her, what time does Ron come home for dinner? She starts laughing. She says, come home for dinner. She said, he's leaving at 6, and we were living in Woodbury. He's leaving at 6, but he may show up by 10 because we didn't leave. Steve Popovich, God rest his soul, used to sleep on my couch.
Wow.
Because he was that into music. And he was the one that brought Meat Loaf to Epic Records and, part of the staff. Then we had the promotion men and women all over the United States. You had distribution.
Yeah.
You had radio that could play 60 records on a playlist, not 10 or 12.
Right.
And that building, the success of that building was incredible. Bill Paley, God rest his soul, sitting at the top, chairman of the company, came from a tobacco store to start with Dr. Stanton, CBS.
Yeah.
And the ability to have the support of that company, never having to deal in payola, never dealing in anything wrong,
right?
Being a bunch of kids, we were. I mean, sitting on my couch, and Jeff Beck is sitting there playing his guitar. I mean, the memories, Yardbirds. Yeah, okay. Little did I know I'd be sitting here with you, listening to your station, and every once in a while you hear a Yardbirds record, and I'm going, hey, man, I was there then.
That's crazy. I worked for CBS Radio in the city. This is when they were in Times Square, though, and a lot of the staff that was there had worked in the Black Rock building. And whenever it came up, I would just be like, tell me a Black Rock story. And there was always a story to be told.
Well, I mean, one of the best stories that I can tell you, and you still won't have to buy my book, but is one day I came back from lunch, and there was 3 gentlemen sitting on my in my office, and they kind of like were threatening me because they said, if you sign the Jacksons, we're going to put a picket line around the CBS building. And a gentleman that had been the bodyguard for Jules Podell at the Copacabana was a dear friend of mine, and I got him a job when they closed the Copa. And I asked him to come upstairs, and I said to him, if these gentlemen wanted to put a picket line around the CBS building, because Marvin Gaye had just come to Columbia and Gladys Knight, and I went after the Jacksons. What would you do if they put a picket line around the CBS building? He says, go on the roof of the Newsy.
That's what he said.
Okay, that took care of it. So that's a Black Rock story for you. The night that we had the blackout in the city was the night that I was evaluating the Meat Loaf album. And it was 9 o'clock on a Friday or Thursday towards the end of the week. And I had these gigantic Uri studio monitors in my office that I just love listening to music loud. And upset everybody in the building, or on the 3 floors above, 3 floors below. And I'm playing Meat Loaf's album.
Yeah.
And Steve Popovich got home at Freehold, New Jersey, where he's living, and he calls me and he says, what do you think of the album? I said, Steve, this is the most powerful album I've ever heard. It just blew the lights out in New York because like a beige, everything went black. Everything was dull, but you have Black Rock stories. I mean,
how many people came running into your room and go, see what you did because you're loud music?
Yeah. And I called my wife and I said, you can blame me. I said, honey, I'm stuck in the city. And the only elevator that was working in the building was a battery-operated elevator for William S. Paley. And he came down from the 35th floor, and we were on the 13th floor. So I figured, and you hear it. That's the only thing you heard. Everything else is gone, is black.
Right.
So I said, let me stand by the door, and maybe the elevator will stop if I'm knocking on the door. It didn't stop. And we walked down the flights, and it was the eeriest feeling in the world. Wow. But you look at that building, and there was a restaurant downstairs, how unusual for the name, the ground floor. That was the name of the restaurant. Mm-hmm. We couldn't go there because it was very expensive, okay? But Barbara Streisand's manager, Marty Ehrlichman, who is still her manager to this day and one of the finest managers ever, 50 years without a contract.
Wow.
Barbra Streisand of all people.
Yeah, right.
But he liked to drink, and so did I. So we would go down to the ground floor, and I would say to him, I think I drove my car in today. I was living in Forest Hills at the time. I'm not sure, but there's no way I'm driving home. He'd get a car to take me home. You wake up in the morning, and I'm going, where's my car? Oh, it's back in the city. So we were on 108th Street, so you get one stop into the city, and I couldn't wait to go to work, and it was fun. And then a gentleman that you probably know, Mel Phillips. Mel was in the radio at CBS Radio.
Okay.
He had it with the radio, and a lot of the radio guys I went after to hire as promotion people because you knew the music, you knew what you liked, you were used to the con of all the promotion men coming at you, telling you it's the greatest thing since night baseball and sex, and I hired a lot of radio people.
Smart.
And throughout the United States. But the staff in that building, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way I can answer you.
Ron Alexenburg is our guest with us. He's going to be with us at the EHM Real Band Battle on Saturday from 5 to 7, evaluating this new talent. I hope the bands are listening and sweating a little bit more as they hear you throw some of these names around that you're going to be there. Was Clive? Was Clive Davis responsible for making you make that move from Columbia to Epic?
Yes.
Is he the guy behind it all?
Called me in. He called me into his office. And being the head of promotion at Columbia in those days, you went from Andy Williams, Barbra Streisand, Jerry Vale to Janis Joplin, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash. The roster was just incredible.
Yeah.
And he calls me into his office. Clive and I have, to this day, a very close, great relationship, so much so that I'm going to be proud to induct him into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame on October the 23rd. At the Paramount. There's a free ad for Jim Faith.
Very cool.
Oh, this will be out on the radio. He's giving me the shh, don't say anything. Okay, I won't say that. I didn't say that Clive Davis is being inducted.
Allegedly.
Thank you. You're talking radio here. Come on, Jim. And the availability of sitting with him was usually we were talking about his pick of the week, and he would say to me, Ronald, I think the Pamela Poland record should be the number one push. And I'm going, okay, so we'll tell Janis Joplin we're not going to push her record, or Bob Dylan, or the Byrds,
right.
And we go, okay, do what the hell you want to do. And then he said to me, by the way, he said, you want to make a name for yourself in the business? You already have, because I was Billboard's Promotion Man of the Year, and fortunately was getting a lot of attention. He said, I'd like you to consider taking over Epic. Epic. I said, what would that be? I mean, you got nice artists. You got Bobby Vinton. One band that I really liked was Poco. Mm-hmm.
But it was nothing at the time. It was,
well, they were doing between $4 and $6 million. It was something.
Okay,
They had Dave
right.
Clark 5.
Okay.
I mean, they had hits, but in the competition of the building, we were on the 12th floor. They were on the 13th floor.
right.
And he said, I'd like you to be the youngest vice president in the company. And I was 26 years of age.
26.
And I said, well, I'm sure it'll make my parents very happy. And I was, Anthony, I didn't even ask, am I getting more money? Because
Right. You're just so.
it was the challenge.
Right.
And he plays for me Sly, his first record that was finished.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a minute. I want Santana, because Santana had just, we go from Santana to Blood, Sweat, and Tears to Chicago, the first band that I ever got involved with. I'm going to have to leave all that.
Right.
And it was like,
And you decided
and he
to do
wanted,
it.
he looked right at me and he said, well, it's Memorial Day weekend, so you got an extra day on Monday. Let me know Tuesday morning. And I go home. And I sit down, and I didn't talk to too many people other than my wife. And I said, I've got this opportunity to get involved with Epic Records. And, they've got some nice artists, and I love country music, too. See, I love all kinds of music. Mm-hmm. I think that people that say what kind of music it is, I said, all music is good. Some is just better than others.
Right.
If you start categorizing music, you're in trouble with me. Okay?
All right.
So the next thing I know is there's Tammy Wynette, and I meet on the phone is Billy Sherrill, who's a phenomenal friend, and he wrote a couple of hits, Stand By Your Man and Most Beautiful Girl and things of that nature. And he's a terrific guy. And he says, you ought to come to Epic, you know. And I said, okay, you know, but I'm going to leave Johnny Cash and I'm going to leave, you know. He says, but you really should. I said yes. Well, that morning, I left my house and, you know, intimidation, and I'm going to go see Clive and say, yes, thank you very much. And I went from the 12th floor to the 13th floor at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and nobody at Epic was saying good morning, hi, how you doing, because they all wanted that job. And one of the things my father, God rest his soul, taught me a lot. He said, if you have an adversarial relationship, go at it face to face. So I brought everybody into the conference room that was on the floor. Mm-hmm. And I said, listen, I didn't pick this job. I was asked to take over this job. It's the beginning of a new week. If you don't want to be here by Friday, let me know.
Wow.
And they all stayed. And we just became a family. I mean, we became a team. Yes, I was called certain things on signing certain artists when they wanted me to sign Johnny Rotten. And the Sex Pistols came into my office and he put his cigarette out on my carpet. I said, get out. I don't care who you are. Okay? I mean, there's mannerisms, there's professionalism.
Yeah.
And if they couldn't write, I didn't want to hear it. You know, it's to this day, I want singer-songwriters, original songs.
They're doing their own thing.
Yep. And we're one to judge it, but that's I don't like that title either.
Right.
You know,
right.
And you know, if I can't dance to it, make love to it, cry to it, want to hear it again, I don't want it. And now,
I love that.
Thank you. And now, being a grandfather and having 4 grandchildren, 12, 10, 8, and 6, they're all out in California. Having 2 daughters, God has gifted me with 3 wonderful children. You probably have seen my youngest daughter, Marnie, in a little movie called Something About Mary that I'm very proud of her and what she's done as a mother as well as an actress. And we just got news a couple of days ago that our oldest daughter, Ivy, who is a top talent booker, got nominated for her first Emmy. Wow. And she books the daytime show The Talk. But she worked for Jay Leno, Howie Mandel, Whoopi Goldberg, Queen Latifah. So I think you'll get a kick out of this. I'm there with my grandson, and you're far too young to have grandchildren, but Jim Faith just has his first. My grandkids will rat you out. They will they will finish you off. And I'm there with my grandson, and we're lying in bed together and talking about baseball. He's a big baseball fan, which I'm thrilled to death with. And my daughter and her husband were out for an evening, and we're babysitting, and I had this plan to get my daughter's Rolodex and run over to Kinko's, make a copy, exactly, make a copy, and I would have everybody's name, home address, phone number, who's married to who. You know, she has it all. It's a huge Rolodex.
Right.
In the morning, about 8 o'clock, my daughter gets up. She goes to make coffee. My grandson, the following words: Mom, Papa Ron's got the Rolodex. It took care of that, you know. But music is is a very important part of his life. And I'm proud to say he just got accepted to a special gifted school out in California for singing. Wow. And lyrics. He was the first one. Goes to show you what you're in for. 3 years ago, turned me on to Bruno Mars.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
And I had heard the name, and I would ask him, what do you think of Bieber? Next. What do you think of Bruno Mars? Oh, Papa Ron, you got to listen to it. Yeah. And he starts singing the songs. Now, I have a little 6-year-old granddaughter who is doing the same thing. And, you know, it's just... I'm fortunate enough to have music in my blood.
I was going to say, it must be in the blood if all the, you know, if kids and grandkids are all,
you know,
all going there.
My son, who lives with us here on Long Island, he's into more of the current stuff, you know, and he comes in and he likes to listen in my stereo. I've got the old Macintosh equipment, you know. And,
nice.
Yeah, and he cranks up, you know, the rap, hip hop stuff. And,
yeah.
You know, that's the language of the street
It
right
is.
now.
It is.
And to be diversified like you are, and as I stare, it looks like my wall in my house.
The record wall here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a record collection of close to 15,000 albums, and I said, we're not going to move with these. They're heavy and all that. And a young man came out of California. He bought the whole collection, and he stayed at my house for 3 days. And he went through it.
Wow.
And there were certain albums that he could have taken and sold for, a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And he gave them back to me. And he's
Really?
Yeah.
Honest guy. Wow, that's crazy.
And he said, he's got some Beatles stuff, and, I'll turn you on to him.
I can't imagine what you're...
If you ever wanted to get some music out of him,
That's crazy. Ron Alexenburg is in studio with us. He's going to be one of the judges at the EHM Real Band Battle Saturday, 5 to 7 at Barbecue. Come down and check it all out. 70 West Main Street in Patchogue. I want to, because you were responsible for so many great artists. I want to ask you about. I guess we're running short on time. Let me ask you about Michael Jackson.
Sure.
Where was the first time? How did you? Because you got him right before Thriller.
Oh, yeah, we got 1976.
Okay.
That was the year, man.
Okay.
76, we got Boston, Meatloaf, and Michael Jackson. Is that a good signing?
That's not. That's an okay year.
Can I do that again somewhere? Can someone please bless me with that one more time?
But what was your role in that?
Well, my role was trying not to sound egotistical or braggadocious. I was pulling my car out of the ABC garage. There was CBS building, Black Rock, had no parking lot. We parked our car in the ABC garage, and I used to pitch quarters with Bruce Morrow to see if he was going to play my records or not, as in the garage. He'd come down from WABC, and I said, Bruce, quarters against the lagging.
Yeah.
I pull my car out of the garage, and I see an onslaught of young people standing in front of the Warwick Hotel. And I knew the doorman because some nights I'd be working late, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't feel like driving home to Woodbury. I was tired.
Grab a room.
And I'd go in and I'd get a room in the hotel. And I knew the doorman, and I said to him, I think his name was Frank. I said, Frank, what's going on here? And he said, man, do you know the Jacksons? Jackson 5? I said, no, I don't know them. But he said, they're in this hotel, and every day it's like people coming in and out. And they hadn't had a hit in a while. Mm. And they were playing Radio City Music Hall that night and Westbury Music Fair the next day. So I pull the car, I let the car there. And I go to the house phone. I pick up the house phone, and I said, Michael Jackson, please. Shows how things have changed. And Michael answers the phone. He was in room 805. And that's stuff you remember. I said, Michael, my name is Ron Alexenburg, Epic Records. I know who you are. He was a study of the industry. People don't really realize that. Mm-hmm. And I said, Mike, I'd like to meet you. Can you come down, or can I come up? And he says, I'll be right down. He got in the elevator with his father and his father's partner, and we went into the little bar that's there at the Warwick, and we started to talk and chat. And again, I told you I was on my way home, and I said, can I invite you over to my office? And his father and his partner didn't go, and Michael came with me. I think I'd left the car even running. I'm not sure. I was excited. And we walked right next door, went upstairs, and they were off that night. They were playing Radio City the next day. We started listening to music and more music and walked them around the building. And then I can say it now, Kenny Gibbons, who was the head of security of the CBS building in Black Rock, I would take people up to Mr. Paley's office and show them the 10 Picassos that were around this. This is the real deal, Michael. This is, the chairman of CBS and
right.
the Picassos. And Michael is looking at the art, and then we spent time together. And something said to me to say to him, are you happy? What are you doing? And he's going, well, I really have ideas, and I'd like to maybe someday make my own music. And I called his father, and I said, what's your deal with Motown? And he said, we're out of our deal. Boom.
That was it.
I said, okay.
But
So
can I stop you right here?
Sure.
Because I'm curious about this. Because you call him, you're doing all these things. Do you feel like I'm going to sign this guy, or do you feel like maybe I'll sign him, or did you really just want to see what was going on? What was your thought process?
after spending time with him, it's a good question. Thank you. You're the first one to ask me that question.
Thank you.
I've been interviewed maybe 200 times. You can't be a record executive and be in awe of any artist because they're all so good,
Right.
and they do what you can't.
Right.
They write, they sing, they play, But Michael had this magical way about him. When you're talking to him, soft-spoken, yeah, I wanted to sign him, but can I sign him? So I called his father, and I said, Michael says he's out of his deal at Motown. Is he? And his father said, what'd you have in mind? I said, I don't know, let me think about this. So I called Walter Yetnikoff and Erwin Siegelstein, who was the replacement for Clive Davis, which is a whole other story, because I love Clive, and I'm sorry for what happened to him, but he's obviously bounced back big time. And I said, I'm going to sign the Jacksons. I'm going to sign Michael Jackson. Now, I could only approve up to $1 million then. So I made out a deal memo, a piece of paper like this, and it said Jackson 5, which had to be changed to the Jacksons because Motown owned the name. 3 albums firm, $333,333.33. That was my limit. 3 albums, $1 million. And the deal memo went through lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, I was threatened. I was told at my home phone on a little cassette, if you sign the Jacksons, you better take a helicopter to work.
Wow.
From Woodbury. What they didn't realize, my next-door neighbor was the head of Nassau County FBI. I asked him, is this a real threat? And he said, yeah. So they picked me up for 2 weeks and drove me to the city.
Wow.
People don't know that. I explained to my children why I was being driven.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like being driven instead of driving myself. I don't like being threatened, but, okay. And I said, well, gee, if you sign them, you better get producers. So can I get Stevie Wonder? No, I don't think that'll happen because of Motown. So Gamble and Huff, we had just done Philadelphia International, and we had 5 big hits in a row from Billy Paul, the OJs, the Isley Brothers. I had a whole roster of African-American artists that we were hot. We were a hot company.
Right.
And being cocky, I get a phone call. Your deal's not going to be approved. What do you mean my deal's not going to be approved? Because we had signed bands that nobody wanted, including Charlie Daniels, one of my dearest friends in the business to this day. Okay? They say, he's old. He's had it. Okay.
They were saying that about Michael Jackson.
Huh?
That's what they were saying.
But I'm just
okay.
signing bands and going through this minutia of having to explain it.
Right.
The deal memo was not approved.
Okay.
Who didn't approve it? Arthur Taylor, president of CBS. Well, I want to talk to him. Walter Yetnikoff says, this is my boss. It's his boss. What are you going to say to him? I said, you see the building next door? It's called ABC. They have a record company called ABC Paramount. They're not doing so great. I will take everybody and go right next door. Okay, like you're the top-rated guy at this station. They better listen to you.
Right.
I'm sitting there at Epic taking on artists that people didn't want. Hit. So Walter says, be careful. I go back into my office, and there was an executive intercom talking about the building. 50 presidents or vice presidents in the whole building. And your secretary couldn't answer the phone. You had to answer it if no one there. Yeah. So I pick up the phone and go, Ron Alexenburg. And I go, Ron, this is Bill Paley. Yeah, right. And I hang up. My secretary, Doreen Riley, married Hernando Cartwright, terrific music people. Doreen comes in. Well, you could smoke in the building at the time, and a cigarette is shaking in her hand. She says, Ron, what's the address of this building? And I said, 51 West 52nd. Why? I was really uptight. She said, that might be a good extension to have, wouldn't it? Yeah. Just dial it. I dial it. Bill Paley here. I'm going, do I still have my job? And he says, in about 15 minutes, can you come up to the 35th floor? And I'm going, whoa. And it happened to be a day where yours truly was 245 fat pounds in those days. and I didn't have on a shirt and tie. So I run over to the Americana Hotel. Quick story. I said, give me a shirt, size 17 neck. And the guy says, the only one we have is a 15 and a half inch. I give it to me. I get this 15 and a half inch shirt. But I buttoned it, and the ugliest tie, Anthony, that you could find. I tie it. I'm going upstairs to the 35th floor. You go up the 35th floor, and there's only 3 people on that floor. There was Arthur Taylor, the president of CBS, Dr. Stanton, and Bill Paley. And then the 36th floor is where the lawyers were. 35th floor is where the people were.
Right.
Mr. Alexenburg, down the hall to the left. I knew what was down the hall to the left. Board of Directors room. I go in there. There's the Board of Directors. Bill Paley. Arthur Taylor sitting at the end of the
They're
table.
all sitting in there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. My heart is pounding right now.
Wait. And Mr. Paley is cool as what cucumber looks my deal man when he says, Ron, we got a call today from Motown or whatever he said. Why do you want to sign the Jacksons, in particular Michael? And I said, ladies and gentlemen, anybody that can have a number 1 song singing about a rat. They looked at me like, what? And I went, Ben, the 2 of us, and that took care of that. He hands me my paper, and he says, go make your deal. And now the pressure, now I better deliver, right? So I called Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff in Philadelphia, and I said, I'm putting the Jacksons on a train. Have somebody meet him at the 30th Street studio, and I will give you, I think I even brought it, Going Places, which is the album that everybody forgets about, was the first album on Epic Records that Gamble and Huff, and the first single that we released was Enjoy Yourself. And then came Quincy Jones, and, then when you look at selling, 200 million albums on 2 releases, Off the Wall and Thriller, and it's the most important signing of my career. The day that he died, I was in Tampa, Florida, with my son in a car, and the phone rang, and it was Keith Olbermann. And he said, Ron, I've gotten your name from our producer. Yeah, Keith, what can I do for you? Well, we'd like you to come on NBC. I'm going, for what? For what? He said, well, they just pronounced Michael Jackson had passed away. Man, apart from in shock, can you get to St. Pete? We want to put you on the air. And I had, again, a T-shirt, pair of shorts. I was going to a baseball game with my son and a promotion man named Jim Jeffries, God rest his soul. We got a police escort. Got right in there. I figured I'd walk in and they'd let me put on something clean. Nope. Got in a remote chair. And Keith Olbermann said, did a phenomenal interview. And now, as things have changed, we are about to hopefully release Remembering Michael Jackson, a documentary that his mother, Catherine, has put together. And it tells
the story.
It tells a real story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, it's so sad. I mean, how often do you get to work with icons? Mm-hmm. I've worked with a few.
And let me ask you a question. When he's going through his tough times, he had a lot of tough times.
Yeah.
How does that affect you? Because, I mean, you had a relationship with him.
It's a good question. It affected me to this day, and I'll tell you how. It'll affect you when I give you the answer, I think. My birthday is July 27th. Many years ago, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm lying in bed with my wife. The phone rings. I said, honey, please answer it. She answers it and says, there's a woman on the phone for you. I'm going, what? Because we had just signed Linda Carter, and, that starts all kinds of rumors, none of which I denied, of course. God, Ron's dating Linda Carter. Again, no, I'm not, but she is a terrific person.
Take the press, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, I don't want to talk to anybody. And pick up the phone. Hello, Ron. It's Michael. I'm in Tokyo, and I want to sing happy birthday to you. Every year he called me.
Wow.
And when he died that year in June, he died. My birthday came. See here? Bumps.
You do.
I miss it. I miss him. I did not want him to do The Wiz. I had no say in it because I had already left Epic, and I'd started Infinity Records,
Mm-hmm.
and MCA had the movie. And Richard Pryor was in my office, making fun of Michael in the only way that Richard could, and he was the one before Eddie Murphy that said, "Not the most masculine dude." I'm going, yeah, okay. He weighs 112 pounds. What do you want from him? But it affected me, and it affects me to this day when I hear this music.
Yeah.
I mean, giving a gold record to Vincent Price and sitting there listening to all this Motown stuff. I'll tell you an interesting story. Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff were given the BMI Award 3-4 years ago in California, and there was a table that I was invited to sit at, and there was Berry Gordy. And I'd never met Berry. And I went up to him, and I had to come up with something that isn't, hi, nice to meet you. Right. Nice to meet you, and have Willie the actor Sutton throw my head in the street. So, not that he would do that, And I said, I would have worked for you for nothing. That's how much respect I had for Motown.
Yeah.
And that took the edge off.
Nice.
And he sat down and he said, that show you did at NARM, which was National Association of Record Merchandisers, 2 artists, both of which I was told not to sign. One, Engelbert Humperdinck, but I heard After the Lovin'. And the other, Michael Jackson, the Jacksons. Jermaine was married to Berry Gordy's daughter, so he was no longer a part of the group. People don't realize that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And when I showed up, Jermaine left because he was married to Berry Gordy's daughter.
Trying to be loyal, yeah.
But Michael is, in my career, I've been very lucky.
What was the Epic numbers? I read it somewhere in here. I don't have it. You took it from what it was, a 4 million, whatever it was?
Yeah, we started out around 4.5, and when I left, it was something like 350 million. And we were a bunch of kids, so we didn't know from profit sharing. We didn't know from renegotiation. Things that you could do today. And over his career recently, they released songs that were recorded 31 years ago with Paul Anka at his studio. And I said if Michael wanted it out, it would have been out then. But it's not okay, because of Justin Timberlake singing on it and some other people. But you're fortunate when, hindsight, that I know that Michael would be, the biggest thing. I didn't like he called himself the king of pop. He was an entertainer. Man, when I asked him questions, like, okay, who do you like? And he said Fred Astaire. How many kids today even know who Fred Astaire is?
Right.
James Brown, who he idolized. Jackie Wilson, who he idolized. Yeah,
Jackie Wilson.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And we lost an icon in Jerry Goffin the other day.
Right, yeah.
And last night, again, we were at Rock of Ages, a show that my son-in-law was one of the producers of. And I sit there and I listen to the REO and Whitesnake and Pat Benatar and Styx and Journey. Okay, and that music and the whole audience. There's a lot of young people in that audience who listen to you, who listen to, getting into Broadway, the Carole King. A lot of them didn't know the Carole King story, and they're being exposed to the music. What Jim does with the Great South Bay Festival in 3 days to have 55 artists, what you're doing at a barbecues. I love the food there, by the way.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we'll be able to eat something, because when you hang out with Faith, he doesn't want me to eat anymore, But the young talent, what people don't realize, and I know you do, you talk about the Michael Jackson, where's the next one coming from? There's 22 recording studios on Long Island. If Long Island were a state by itself, it'd be the 9th largest state in the United States based on its population, so that you have the power, that little blue thing, right now, that microphone, God bless you. I mean, I can't, I listen to Sirius XM. Stevie Van Zandt is a very dear friend of mine, and, he's gone through his thing. But when he rejoined the Rascals and the show was terrific, it opened up the ARP audience, of which I'm a member of, to music from the 60s that they all loved.
Yeah.
And Epic was a launching platform for my career, other as an executive. As a promotion man, it was Columbia.
Right.
And then going to Infinity and signing again, people like Spyro Gyra that nobody wanted, and they couldn't pronounce it, Spyro Gyra, or Orleans. But then as a promotion person, and radio broke a record for me that nobody wanted, all because we were fortunate enough to have a relationship again with the Playboy clubs and found the manufacturer of pina coladas, and Rupert Holmes came with pina colada, and boom, walk into a radio station and promotion. We had a band on Columbia, The Circle, Red Rubber Ball. Couldn't get that record played. Could not get it played. And Scott Regan at WKNR in Detroit. I'm in Detroit, and I said to the promotion man, take me to a sporting goods store. For what? I said, take me there. And we bought 50 Spaldings, right? And we wrote on them, Red Rubber Ball, Circle, Columbia Records, and came to a radio station like this, opened up the front door, and threw the balls on the stage, all over the floor. Balls are rolling all over the place. And a guy like yourself, Anthony, picks it up and goes, Red Rubber Ball, Circle, Columbia Records. Okay, that I hope stays in this business.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy, Daniel Glass, he's got an independent label. He's doing it. He's a promotion man. You know, Doug Morris started out as a promotion man. Tommy Mottola started out as a manager of Holland. I mean, you know, they can't take it out of our blood.
Yeah, yeah. I hope things like that stay. I feel like it's dying down, the creativity and
I'm with you.
The relationships. It's not as fun, I don't feel, as it used to be.
Well, if you go see the movie Jersey Boys, and I like the Broadway play better than the movie, there's a guy who's been a dear friend of mine forever. He was one of the top jocks ever. His name is Joey Reynolds. Joey started, out in small little radio stations in Bertha Porter Station, and he played Sherry the first time, locked the door, played it 15 times in a row. Program director came in knocking on the door. He had the police department knocking on the door. And it's in the movie, but it's not Joey Reynolds. It's some other guy. And Frankie Valli should have given Joey the credit for it. He broke Sherry.
Right.
Scott Muni, God rest his soul, said to me, what can I do for you? And I said, can you play this record? And he's at WNEW. I introduced him to Mr. Loaf, and he broke Meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Yeah. I mean, there's radio. Tom Donahue in San Francisco broke all that, California progressive music. And then it went into La La Land. And we used to love KHJ because you could hear Bob Dylan on an AM radio where, they used to play it on FM.
Yeah.
And Bob Dylan said to me one day when I picked him up in Chicago, he said, I had a beat-up car, a 59 Chevy, and I apologized for the car. Dylan, in his great way, looks at me and he says, Ron, 4 rubber wheels beats 2 rubber heels. It does, doesn't it? And that's Bob Dylan. And when Like a Rolling Stone is 6 minutes long and they're trying to figure out, what are we going to do with the 6-minute record? I said, you're going to cut it in half and do part 1, part 2. Well,
and that was it.
Yeah, because radio wouldn't play it.
Yeah.
And it had certain intros. And if you didn't have the immediate intros. And another quickie is when Paul Simon, it was either Like a Rock or I'm not sure what the song was, but it was 3 minutes and 14 seconds. And I used to have to prove label copy. So if I put 3 minutes and 14 seconds, program directors wouldn't have approved it. So I put 274. Knowing I didn't know how much trouble I could have gotten into with the logging. I guess you still do that, and they pay.
Oh yeah.
But 274, I was pray to find one of those records.
Oh, that's great, man. We have to get you back here one day and do this again, because I have 50 some odd questions that I haven't gotten to. But this was a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to sit with you, and thanks for listening. And if there's anything I can do, you got it.